Ladies and gentlemen, this is extremely interesting. New York Post, Trump to declare Congress adjourned to make recess appointments. President Trump stated his plans on Wednesday to circumvent the Senate and unilaterally name people to federal posts using recess appointments. President Trump said he had the power to declare that both chambers of Congress are on recess so that he could make appointments and curtail Democratic opposition that has delayed judicial and other confirmations. Quote, the Senate should either fulfill its duty and vote on my nominees, or it should formally adjourn so that I can make recess appointments, Trump said in a White House press conference. Quote, it's always roadblocks and a waste of time. If the House will not agree to that adjournment, I will exercise my constitutional authority to adjourn both chambers of Congress. The current practice of leaving town while conducting phony pro forma sessions is a dereliction of duty. So what they're doing is, well, I'll read you this. The Democratic-held House and Republican-led Senate technically are still in session, though most lawmakers have left town. Both chambers are holding pro forma sessions until at least May 4th, with most lawmakers not attending to pass legislation. These sessions prevent the president from making recess appointments. So Trump calls it the way he sees it. It's actually, whether he can do this or not, the Constitution states he can, but only if the House and the Senate have not agreed on a date for recess. He's the only president in recent memory who hasn't made recess appointments. And so President Obama made over 30, and other presidents made hundreds of recess appointments. President Trump has not. Furthermore, these lawmakers, the brave and courageous people who lead our country, they're not showing up to Congress. Okay, so they're only showing up in small numbers or having these pro forma sessions only to ensure that there is not technically a recess. But President Trump cited examples of holdups, saying he was outraged that Michael Peck's nomination is still pending to lead the Broadcasting Board of Governors, whose Voice of America division, Trump said, is responsible for disgusting news coverage. Okay, quote, if you heard what's coming out of the Voice of America, it's disgusting. What things they say are disgusting towards our country, President Trump said, and Michael Peck would do a great job, but he's willing to wait now for 2 years. But he's been waiting now, for 2 years. President Trump cited other pending nominees, but not by name. Quote, there are currently 129 nominees stuck in the Senate because of partisan obstruction. President Trump said the positions include the Director of National Intelligence to members of the Federal Reserve Board. So they're trying to stall Ratcliffe. They're trying to stall John Ratcliffe, which is hilarious because they know what's coming. They know what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I do not have a Twitter account. I did a segment on H.A. Goodman's other channel. If you see anyone impersonating me on Twitter, please, please, please notify Twitter. I do not have a Twitter account, and it is illegal to impersonate people. And so there's somebody impersonating me on Twitter, getting in online arguments with people. So I was like, oh my God, I don't want that. I don't want anyone to think that I'm, arguing with them on Twitter when I haven't had a Twitter account for a year and a half now, going on 2 years, and I don't have a Facebook account. But anyway, quote, the positions include the Director of National Intelligence to members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Financial Markets of the United States, and the Undersecretary of Agriculture responsible for administering food security programs. So they don't want President Trump to have a normal presidency. They still don't. We're approaching the election, only months away. And they are holding out. They have done everything possible. They have done everything possible, ladies and gentlemen. Also, another message to people, do not, I am telling you, this is the most important news you will hear all day. This is the most important news you might hear all year. One of the most important things you might hear. Don't ever get into a debate, a discussion, a verbal altercation, a momentary lapse of judgment where you just, get into a discussion or an argument or a debate with anyone about President Trump who doesn't like President Trump. If there's anyone family member, coworker, friend, spouse, do not talk about President Trump in their presence, or I would even say don't humor them and let them lure you into a discussion or debate. It's not worth it. Let them. People are going to be. It's almost like we've approached psychosis realm. It's almost as bad. It's approaching a psychosis. Do not speak, debate, discuss, argue with anyone who has serious derangement issues about Trump, or even if anyone who just doesn't like Trump. Because it's going to get into this situation where they can't actually pinpoint something that is worse than President Obama's NATO intervention. It absolutely obliterated a country that Biden and Clinton were backing as well. They can't point to anything like they're going to try to judge and condemn and demean you, and their grasp of history is not going to be the grasp that you have. So you can point to President Trump beginning détente, helping begin a roadmap towards peace between North and South Korea, being the first president to step foot in North Korea and begin détente between North and South Korea, to where President Moon Jae-in, who just recently won again, President Moon Jae-in of South Korea was saying that he envisions a joint North Korean and South Korean Olympic team. This was unheard of, ladies and gentlemen. And President Trump started the ball rolling. President Trump also is withdrawing, a slow withdrawal of Americans, a slow but eventual withdrawal of Americans from our longest-running military conflict started by Bush based on failed intelligence. So if there's anyone who goes after President Trump and they don't understand that Bush and President Obama were infinitely worse, we're not just President Trump's foreign policy is infinitely better than President Obama and Bush's foreign policy. Their foreign policy is never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, backed by Max Boot, Bill Kristol, the eventual nominee, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton will be nominee, and Biden, who is the placeholder, and he might pick Warren, which is hilarious, but whatever. He'll pick Warren, and it'll be two women, Hillary Clinton being nominee, running for president after the convention. During the convention, there's no way Biden becomes nominee. The whole thing's a charade. The pledged delegates aren't even legally bound, and in the first, they're not even bound in the first round to vote for Biden, which is hilarious. But here, they're going to say, the same people I told you not to discuss things with, politics with, ever, probably even after the election, but at least, before the election, don't talk to these people. Even if they try to lure you or whatever, just don't acquiesce or, give in to them. Anyway, they're going to say, oh my God, there's 129 nominees stuck in the Senate, It's not obstruction. It's just, President Trump is an authoritarian. He might not be able to do this. Okay? The fact that he is threatening this, it says everything you need to know about American politics. It's actually a very good thing because he's pointing to the Constitution. He's saying, look, I'm going to go ahead and do this. McConnell might say no. I think that he's already kind of said no. He's like, President Trump, I'm with you all the way. I can't do my McConnell today. Nancy, don't blame me if President Trump forces both houses to adjourn. The Supreme Court will decide this, and who knows? They're not really the wonderful, courageous leaders we have in Congress are not really, upholding their duty to vote on legislation. There is no formal recess. Because of the crisis, they're not there. And they're just, they have these pro forma sessions where most of the senators and people in the House of Representatives aren't showing up. And I don't exactly know that only certain numbers show up, and so they're not really. They're almost in recess, which is what Trump is saying. They're basically in recess. So he's just going to say, okay, I will adjourn Congress. But who knows if he's able to do it? There is a paragraph, or there is an article in the Constitution that talks about this. Recess appointments are controversial under President Obama and Trump. Trump's threat could face legal trouble due to a unanimous 2014 decision from the Supreme Court, where liberal and conservative judges united to strike down 3 appointments made by President Obama during a period when the Senate said it was in session. So McConnell pledged to find ways to confirm nominees considered mission critical. But under Senate rules, it will take consent from Leader Schumer. Okay. So this is President Trump. There are over 100 nominees, 129 I read, in the Senate, stuck in the Senate because of partisan obstruction, many for posts that must be filled to assist with the crisis response. Congress keeps leaving town, but holding phony pro forma sessions. It is unacceptable during this crisis. Then you have the Constitution grants the president the power to adjourn Congress in limited circumstances, but such scenarios is nearly unimaginable due to long-standing legislative rules. So, who knows if President Trump is able to do this? The fact that he's forcing, this President Trump doesn't back down from a fight. This makes liberals and Democrats, oh my God. If it was President Obama doing it, they would say, great. See, you have to actually call. You talk about a hot mic. They're obsessed with the hot mic. Biden is literally accused and there's a criminal complaint. They're not going to go into the convention with Biden, who wouldn't even win the popular vote. Okay, their claim to fame is that they have the popular vote. Okay, Clinton won the popular vote. Biden wouldn't even win the popular vote. The only reason he did so well in the primaries is because people the Democratic Party despises Bernie Sanders. When people say, oh, well, Bernie's policies are popular. No, they're not. Not when you find out that your taxes are going to be raised, or not when you find out how it's being paid for, and not when you find out that Bernie doesn't have a plan to pay for them, or not when you find out that the Democratic Party doesn't even want them. So the polls, when you say, well, your taxes might go up, plunges. The support just plunges. But anyway, the whole thing's a charade. They're not going to go into the convention. August 18th is the 100-year anniversary, the centennial of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. They're not going to go with a man who literally has a criminal complaint. President Trump does not have a criminal complaint. And they've it's become like this mythic, it's almost like they view it to be a deposition. Like when they say, well, Trump said both sides. No, he didn't say there are good people who are bigots and tiki torch people. He didn't say that. He never said that. He constantly condemned the hate and bigotry. It was never enough. And then they found a soundbite they could manipulate. He said both sides. He said both sides. He obviously never meant that in the way that they've literally tried to pin on Trump. He never meant that. He was referring to the Republicans who were there to keep statues up, who, by the way, were also protesting during President Obama's administration, not the tiki torch people, the Republicans or the conservatives in certain locations around the country to keep statues up. That happened during President Obama's administration. But again, every single news story, oh my God, this crisis is Trump's fault. No, it's not. You had Eric Swalwell, I call him Emperor Swalwell, saying stop wearing masks on March 3rd. You had Andrew Cuomo, who said the risk remains, the general risk remains low for New York. There's no reason for undue anxiety. Over 10,000 people have lost their lives. This guy says there's no reason for undue anxiety. Then you have to hear, oh, Trump is causing lives. What? New York has more cases and more lives lost than all of South America and all of Africa combined with this crisis. That is a fact. I did a segment on that on H.A. Goodman's other channel. What's happening in New York is the fault of Andrew Cuomo. It's not the fault of Trump. They say two things at once all the time with President Trump. They say, oh, well, you know what? He has no authority to circumvent and overrule the governors. Then what was he supposed to do? Force the governors to get to accept masks and ventilators they didn't ask for? When was Governor Cuomo asking for ventilators and masks? In March. On March 1st, he was saying there's no reason for undue anxiety. The general risk remains low for New York. In February, he was suing the federal government because of travel restrictions. And you look at Whitmer and Whitmer in Michigan, and Inslee in Washington, and Pritzker in Illinois. When were these people talking about this crisis? The Democrats in Illinois had their primary on March 17th. So did the Democrats in Florida and Arizona. And then in Wisconsin, they still had their primary, and people were it was rain and hail, and you had people with masks who were drenched from the rain. That's the Democrats. That's a picture of the Democratic Party right there. During a pandemic, they put politics. And it wasn't the Supreme Court. No one forced the Democratic Party. They could have postponed all the state elections. But they said, well, we might have certain Republicans in a longer, in power longer. We're just, it'll be difficult. It wasn't impossible to postpone the Wisconsin primaries. So, the Wisconsin primary. But anyway, they chose politics over the health or welfare of their voters. When they're not cheating their voters, they're forcing their voters to vote in the rain, getting pelted by 2-inch, 3-inch thick hail. That's just the Democratic Party. But who knows if President Trump's able to do this? He's sending a political message, that if a Democrat did this, they'd be, oh my God, Hillary's so strong. If Clinton were president, you know what they would say? Well, you know what? Congress isn't really in session. These are ridiculous pro forma, the sessions. They're not really in session. And you know what? Clinton is pointing to the Constitution. What could be more constitutional than a president exerting her constitutional authority? Oh, you just don't like strong females in power. Okay, then they would flip everything, just like with the Steele dossier. When they say, well, Trump, he worked with Russia. They purchased a dossier compiled with help, allegedly, from an active Russian intelligence official. That's what the Vanity Fair article is talking about. They're so proud of it too. So how Steele compiled his dossier. I was so proud of it. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel, to my new Patreons. Thank you so very, very, very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to support my voice, my Patreon links are below in the pinned comment description. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right this second. Ladies and gentlemen, don't know if President Trump will be able to do this. Probably not. He's probably sending a message like, hey, I'm going to try it out. And we'll see. Then, the Supreme Court will get involved. Mitch McConnell could get involved. Who knows? Who knows what would happen? But, you don't have the bodies there to prevent Trump, so who knows? Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so very, very much. We'll see what takes place.